And hello. And I see I have a lighting issue. Ta-da! Okay. Good morning. Feliz Navidad. Okay. Brew your favorite Salvadoran artisanal handcrafted coffee. I am drinking the Good Beans Christmas Blend by Gabe. Cheers, buen provecho. Hello, Mo. Welcome. I think Mo gets the attendance award for the year. um, good morning, everyone. Let's just get started before I ramble on. So, join on YouTube, Twitter/X, Feliz Navidad Mo, or Twitch even. Twitch is a great platform. I actually like it. So I saw this and I thought it was pretty amazing. I don't know quite the exactly what happened, but apparently there was some issue with a Starlink satellite. And Starlink just says on December 17th, Starlink had an anomaly on satellite 35956, resulting in loss of communication with the vehicle at 418 kilometers, venting a propulsion tank, rapid decay, blah, blah, blah. So what was fascinating about this, besides someone said this, a great start to a science fiction movie. On December 17th, Starlink experienced an anomaly on satellite 35956. But is this photo by a company called Vantor. So Vantor apparently has imaging satellites, like high resolution imaging satellites. Their satellite was able to take a picture of the Starlink satellite over 241 kilometers away. Like, how they even found it is pretty insane. To then take an optical image of some sort of this satellite. And these Starlink satellites are traveling at, let's see, 17,000 miles per hour or 27,000 kilometers per hour. That's how fast the average Starlink satellite travels. I don't know what the Vantor satellite is doing, if it's geostationary or what, but 241 kilometers away of an object traveling 17,000 miles an hour, and they are getting 12 centimeter resolution of the Starlink satellite. Like, absolutely crazy. So that was cool. That was like total sci-fi wild experience. So anyway, over the weekend, for some, it was a quiet, calm, peaceful holiday weekend. For me, it was vibe coding all the things nonstop. I worked all Friday till 10 o'clock at night, all Saturday, all Sunday. It was a vibe code fest, a vibe fest. I had a call with a partner who said, "Hey, my customer can't migrate to BC because of X, Y, and Z." It's like, give me one feature, just one feature, operation, process, whatever, because this customer has like 20 of these. Give me one that is a showstopper for your customer that you believe they cannot do in Business Center. He says, well, let me show you this one thing. And it's not like extravagant. It's pretty straightforward. I get it, but it's very unique to this customer, very unique to this industry, very unusual. Like, okay, cool. I can imagine how this could be done in BC in theory. So let me work on that. So I created a 19-page design document. And when I say I didn't do anything. I typed a prompt, I described the scenario, and Copilot vibe coded a 19-page design document for me, explaining, okay, here's how you're going to do this. Here's how you're going to design it. Here's the code units. Here are your concerns you got to do. Here's the BC component that you got to work around because that's a structure that this data is in. 19 pages. PDF, emailed it off to the partner. Said, what do you think of this? Would this work? Now, given the technical nature of the PRD, I'm 98% sure it's not going to be like, it's not a readable document, but it's a demonstration of my capability, Copilot's capability, Business Central capability, how you can solve a solution. Normally, this would take me hours. It's a nightmare, super expensive, super time consuming. It's like, oh, is a customer willing to pay for it or not, right? You're having to evaluate all these things because the cost of just going down this path with a conversation is very expensive. And you can say, yeah, I can kind of do that. But what does the customer want to know? How much and when? And like I said, this is one of 20 different complex requirements this customer has before they would even consider Business Central. So it's like, you're not going to spend $50,000 on this one requirement. Well, here's a 19-page start. I then had, I can't even remember what this was. Oh, it was a different call with a different partner for a different customer, 15-minute call. They said, hey, we need this requirement. Business Central cannot do this. How do we solve this problem? Here you go. Here is a 16-page functional requirements document answering your questions. And it has process flow, it has data flow, it has fields, it has source data mapping. It's a framework. It's not perfect. I'm sure there's stuff we're going to edit and refine. But after a 15-minute call, I delivered a 16-page functional requirements document to the partner. It said, would this be satisfactory for your customer? This is on a Friday night at 10 o'clock. Well, I sent it at 10. And by the way, I had full wireframe mockups of the pages in that 16-page functional requirements document. So that was me at Friday, 10 p.m., just emailing this off casually to partner. Hey, take a look. Let me know what you think. On Monday, like a normal person, they actually opened their email, read it, and said, wow, can I share this with a customer? It's like, sure. It's for the customer, of course. So, yeah. And then I had Copilot create a full application user guide for a new product we have in AppSource, or we're putting in AppSource. And the funny part was, I used the word comprehensive on the first try. That was a mistake because it wrote a 520-page user guide for our application. And I said, whoa, hold up. Nobody is going to read that, let alone me. So I said, take this, cut it way down, chop out these types of sections, this type of content way down. It got it down to only 135 pages. Yep. So that's what I did this weekend is I briefly reviewed a 135-page application user guide for our new AppSource app. And that's what it looks like. That's the level of detail. Checklists, tables, recommendations, best practices, common user mistakes. It created it all. I had no word in. I was like, wow, okay. And then I worked on a DevOps automation solution over the weekend. So our DevOps process to create a brand new project, like for a PTE, takes at least 1 hour. And we have a 25-page procedure guide to do this because it is so many steps, given how tedious and how much minutia there is in DevOps. In our particular pipeline, it's painful. It's like 100 clicks and it's so easy to make a mistake or miss something. It's like, oh, we cannot live with this. This is just crazy. Plugged it into Copilot, it spit out an automation for us. So needless to say, I am on the vibe code bandwagon, and if you are not on the vibe code bandwagon, I highly recommend you start looking into it seriously. So, weekly projects, a fun one. GitHub Copilot, apparently, I'm going to call it a bug. GitHub Copilot has a bug when trying to program the AL programming language. I thought I was imagining things. After 20 tries, it simply could not perform this one very specific task in AL, no matter what I did. I even gave it a code sample, and it could not complete the exercise. And my junior developer in El Salvador, he figured out a clever test. He tested it outside of GitHub Copilot, and it was successful. So subsequent tests, Claude website, Cursor, GitHub Copilot, we have identified, we believe the issue is with GitHub Copilot, not the model, GitHub Copilot itself. Fascinating. It's 1099 prep season. If you have not prepared for your customers, if you're a partner, boy, get ready for the phone calls. If you're a BC customer, I highly recommend staying on version 26. If you've already upgraded to 27, lo siento, my condolences, you're about to experience some pain. So I highly recommend getting on 1099s immediately, because if you're on 26, you might be able to wade the waters and survive. If you're on 27, I think you're in for a rough ride based on our limited research. We are having a very hard time even getting it to work. A bug in slumber for 13 years. That's a fun one. Non-stop vibing, in case you didn't pick up on my theme already. I mentioned the 75% DevOps project setup automation. SOW to PRD to PTE, those are our TLAs, our 3-letter acronyms of the week. And we are working on a new AppSource app release if we can get it to push through. So on Monday, I discovered why my 1Password was no longer working suddenly on my Windows machine. It is because Cylance, my endpoint protection, my EDR, is blocking 1Password. Turns out, again, I'd already had a allow list, whitelist, permission rule for 1Password in there, I found. I added another permission. It still blocks it. So trying to figure out what that is. But at least I figured it out. I had a call or support ticket with 1Password. They said, do you have endpoint protection? I was like, oh, yep. So it is Cylance. AppSource app testing and bug hunting. Had a call with a customer for our AppSource app. They are our beta test customer, and just it is wild how much testing we did in our dev environment, in their sandbox, and we install in prod. We're just finding issue after issue. It is just wild. It's like, wait, we tested all of this thoroughly in sandbox. Once it's in prod, we're hitting all sorts of errors. I'm just like, wow. And it's in part due to the initialization in first time setup, which you only test a couple times in the sandbox, right? Once it was set up, we did a bunch of data testing, so we didn't uncover these issues. So yeah, so we're fixing those. They're simple fixes, but it's kind of annoying because they kind of block the progress in production. New app, high level requirements. I'm looking into that. So someone said, hey, my customer wants this integration with this SaaS platform. It doesn't appear to exist. Guess what I did? I went to Copilot, boom, starting research requirements. David in El Salvador, in Berlin, had a interesting problem with config package. He was trying to import 72,000 rows, and I think these are general journal or whatever BC calls them, journal lines. And it was like 3 hours, and he's just sitting there like, what is going on? So he eventually broke it up into 10,000, 20,000 row files and was able to get it in that way. But a lot of time wasted. And so I'm not sure if we can solve that problem or not. Yeah. Monday was Official, take your daughter to the mall day. Wait, I'm being told it was not actually take your daughter to the mall day. I was apparently duped. So I took my daughter to the mall. I rescheduled calls, had a call cancel, worked out okay. I went to a mall, took her there, had lunch at a nice Italian, it was an Italian Korean restaurant. Can't say that I've ever experienced that before, but I ate Italian food at a Korean restaurant. Very nice, very fancy, excellent. And then I went to a gorgeous cafe, roastery coffee shop. Had to have been well over $1 million renovation for this place. They roast their own coffee. I was like so excited. It was the worst coffee I've had in memory. It was a tragedy. Like over $1 million investment, and their coffee is charcoal. It was really, really sad. And then I packaged up our new DevOps automation solution, sent it over to my senior dev, and he started to review and implement it. And he said, this is pretty amazing. So he's implemented like 6 out of the 8 steps. And Copilot estimates we're going to get approximately 75% automation level in the new solution. We have to do some things manually in Alpaca because at least it's not aware of automation or API for Alpaca yet. I'll have to look into that. But then once we get the initial Alpaca steps set up, it's able to automate the rest of the standard DevOps processes we have. Branch policies, project administrators, variable groups, repos, pull requests, new build, release pipeline. 75% automation via PowerShell and DevOps API. So my goal is to take it from 1 to 2 hours to under 5 minutes and reduce our chance of errors to, less than 5%. So that we can do, instead of being able to do 1 PTE a day, we can do a minimum of 3 PTEs in 1 day, each of us. So 3 developers, dramatically increase our capacity. This was real bottleneck for us. Tuesday, Martes. New app, errors in production. So I mentioned this. We tested in dev. We tested in sandbox. When we go to prod, error. It's like, what is going on? So they were minor errors, but we were like kind of baffled. So those are all fixed. We have some enhancements as well. And we found some interesting things about BC we didn't even know about. Like when you have a list subpage or subpart, there is this hidden option to export or open that data in Excel. Fascinating. We're about to build export log to Excel functionality. My developer accidentally just clicked on this and it's like, oh, you want to open in Excel? Boom. It was just built in. Really impressive. So we're refining that. I mentioned BCV 27 1099s. Ronald and I have had a couple more calls on this, and we just don't see how this can work. We printed a test 1099, the copy B or whatever. There isn't a single dollar amount on the form. Like, what's going on? That was on 27.2. So if you were on 27 and you were expecting to print 1099s, I worry. I would be worried, and I think you need to prepare a plan B, unless like 27.3 is going to come out ASAP and solve these problems. I think we have a documentation issue, and then I'm concerned we have a functionality issue. And and on the 1099s, do not, under any circumstances, rely on any AI or LLM or anything to give you answers on how to generate or process or prepare or configure 1099 functionality in BCV 27. Just don't even try. We have tried numerous times. It is a disaster because the LLMs will always pull in version 26 or earlier instructions into the V27 functionality, and it will be absolutely riddled with incorrect information. And we wasted hours trying to do this, and we gave up. So we had to go to the BCV27 source code, generate procedures of our own, try to walk through them. And even then, those procedures have errors, even though we told it to only look at the V27 source code. So good times. 13-year-old bug. I got an email on Friday saying, Steve, I found an issue this is with my Dynamics GP utility that I've developed and sold over 13 years. And this consultant, through issue a customer had found this apparent bug that has been in my product for 13 years and no one has noticed. Now, from what I could tell, it won't actually affect the operations or processes, but if you run a particular report or if you do a particular analysis, apparently, you will see the discrepancy in some amounts. So I don't think it's a critical bug or a showstopper bug, but it appears to be a bug. And as far as I could tell, so he found this after 13 years. Absolutely crazy. Always blows my mind when this happens. Like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, it's just been sitting there. So if anyone thinks their software is not bug free, boy, you just haven't been around long enough. All software has latent bugs, period. It's always there. Just a matter of whether a user happens to stumble into it. Copilot. We are very much beginners with like full-on vibe coding for production work. And I don't know if this is unique to Copilot or if tools like Cursor, Claude, or others have similar constraints, but definitely with GitHub Copilot, there is a common issue we are now running into daily, and that is the response hit the length limit. The issue is that when you ask it to, say, create a user guide or create a testing checklist or something like that, it might work a few times, but eventually, depending on what you're working on, any type of larger document, apparently larger than 15, 20 pages, you are likely to get this error message and it's saying, user response hit length limit or something like that. And this apparently is due to the context window of the LLM for outputs. So let's say the LLM has a 32,000 token context window for inputs. The output is much smaller. So it can consume more data than it can send back in a single response, is my layman's understanding. And so at first I was like, why is this happening? I don't get it. Never had this before. Then I realized once I broke it up into sections, this was my first attempt at the application user guide. I realized it was sending back or trying to compose over 14,000 lines, which gets printed out into over 520 pages if you convert it to PDF. I was like, oh, makes sense. I got that. So now we are regularly running into this limit, and I am going to be looking into multi-agent processing and handoff so I don't have to tell it to chunk this and do one section at a time. So learning about that. There it is. Let's see. Yeah, that was my assembly of the user guide, and it says, sorry, the response hit the length limit. Please rephrase your prompt. And that is what the output looked like. It was 16 sections. The table of contents alone was 20 pages in a PDF format. So you can see why I hit the length limit there. And then once I had to restructure my prompt, say, okay, do the table of contents first, and then do one section at a time. So I basically had to say, yep, proceed with section 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 16. Not hard, but a bit annoying, so I need to figure out how to automate that. So on Wednesday, I worked on rewriting our user guide, cleaning that up. And once I learned that process, I basically restructured it. I had it go from 520 pages down to 130 or whatever. And as part of that, I had like 16 different markdown files. So I learned that the tool that I'm using called Markdown Monster has full command line support, which is pretty awesome because otherwise I'd be assembling 16 different Markdown files. But instead, Copilot is able to issue command line prompts to Markdown Monster to do whatever I want in those Markdown files. Pretty cool. So I can convert 16 Markdown files to PDF. I can have Copilot assemble those 16 into one, use Markdown Monster to convert it to PDF. So I have a new automation tool in terms of Markdown and PDF processing. Chivissimo, as they would say. Had a call with David to discuss Nacha EFT format. So he's working on a, what is that called? Data exchange definition for a Nacha EFT format. And he had a question about addenda, CCD, CCD plus, CTX, addenda records, and whether he needed to include those. So we had that discussion topic. One of my favorite topics, actually. And this was an example of my prompt and my discussion with Copilot on the 500 page user guide consolidation. So it says, I'm going to bring it down from 500 to about 150 pages. And yeah, so that was the Markdown output. And then I asked Perplexity, is like, how do I deal with this? And I was wondering if Markdown Monster had a way where I could just throw in a bunch of files and have it do a batch output. But it's like, hey, by the way, Markdown Monster supports command line. I was like, that is awesome. So I chose well with Markdown Monster. I'd never heard of it before, but it's been a pretty awesome tool. It is Windows only, unfortunately, but it works pretty well on Windows. And there we go. There's my final output. On Thursday, Jueves, I discovered that I have an impossible AL vibe code request. And that challenge is to ask Copilot to export data to an Excel workbook file with 2 worksheets. That's it. Not asking for anything crazy. So if you say, hey, Copilot, can you export these data sets with a header worksheet and a line worksheet or a detail worksheet? So export these sales order headers and export these sales order lines in 2 different worksheets, 2 tabs in Excel. Please do that. It'll say, sure, no problem, Steve, easy peasy, let me go. It'll say, done. I've double checked the code. It looks great. Build it, send it. And then you'll realize there's an error, or there's a mistake, or there's only 1 worksheet, or there's 2 worksheets, but there's only data on 1 worksheet. It output both data sets on a single worksheet, the other one's blank. And you'll ask it to fix it, and it'll say it fixed it, but then you'll get a different problem. It'll fix it again, different problem. And it'll go in a circle with 2, 3, 4 different errors, and it will never be able to solve this problem. So this is the bug in Copilot that we have found, and we have verified it. I've done this over 20 times, and we have verified that Claude Code does not have this issue. We have verified that Cursor does not have this issue. Same Sonnet 4.5 LLM. So we don't think it's LLM. It's definitely isolated to GitHub Copilot. So that's the first time I've run into that problem, and I expect it is not the last time. If I was able to run into it this quickly, there have got to be other landmines waiting. And wireframe all the things. You can use GitHub Copilot, probably other tools, to wireframe mockups of Business Central pages. I did this in 1 minute, literally less than 60 seconds. I said, hey, I want a mockup of the Business Central customer card. In the general section, I want you to add contract number, contract status, contract start date as custom fields. I said, sure, no problem, Steve. Boom. There is the wireframe of that Business Central page. People that I've spoken to said, you know, it's so fast for me to code up AL to mock up a page. I just do that rather than trying to draw it out somewhere. Well, now I just mock this up because this is good enough. It's good enough for discussion, design purposes, prototyping. Boom. This is going in all my documents. I'm wireframing all the things. Incredible. If you're not doing this, Let's go. So that was Christmas. That's what I did on Christmas. 2026 events, Partner in Vibe, January 28th through 30th in South Padre Island, Texas. Register at partnerin.io. This is a conference for Microsoft partners of all flavors, Azure, CRM, Dynamics, Power Platform, whatever. I don't know, infrastructure, security, you name it. Partner best practices, partner strategy, partner sales, partner implementation, you name it. Directions NA is in April in Orlando, Dynamics Con May in Vegas, and Dynamics Mind is May in Slovenia. I believe Directions and Dynamics Con are still accepting submissions, perhaps until the 31st for one of those. I forget which. I think Dynamics Con ends on Dynamics 31st. Not sure about Directions NA. Get your submissions in if you want to present. Partner in Vibe Conference is starting on Wednesday, January 28th. Sessions start and then goes through Friday. Courtyard by Marriott. Go register. I am doing scaling with nearshore talent, avoiding $1 million lawsuit, and modern support services for modern SaaS. So check it out and join my sessions there. We're going to have a good time. So it is Friday. It is the day after Christmas. Thank you, Brad. Both Directions NA and Dynamics Con have a session submission deadline by 12/31 in US date format. That would be December 31st for the rest of the world. Get your submissions in. Cheers. What will you vibe code today? Not tomorrow, literally today. If you are not vibe coding all the things, I'm going to be vibe coding all those things in your place. And my goal is to have a proposal in one day. Minimum. Not because it takes me a day, just because I have other things to do. So I'm hoping to do functional requirements document next day after conversation at the latest, same day or next day. PTE, full PTE from maybe a functional requirements document, maybe a statement of work. Go to PRD, go to PTE one day. In the past, our DevOps was a big limitation. Hour or two to get that set up, fumble through the PTE, and then I'd have to do the testing the next day. Hoping to get that down to one day, maybe two. I'm going to try to document our Copilot AL coding bug. Now that I've discovered and confirmed that bug, I am going to release the fully vibe-coded PTE. This is the first A to Z fully vibe-coded PTE that I've done from a handwritten statement of work. Pretty soon we're going to go to vibe-coded statement of work. And so I'm going to try to release that today, get that to the partner to test. And I'm going to fully vibe code a requirements document and design a BC to SaaS integration between BC and a SaaS analysis platform. So I'm hoping to do that today. Probably have 20 pages of that to review today. And then we have an issue. We tried to release a new version of our AppSource app on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, and it's stuck in the release process. So need to figure out what's going on. Anyone else release AppSource app on Christmas Eve or Christmas? I don't know if it's broken, if Microsoft is on vacation or what. Summit NA roadshows in 2026, Nashville in January and Dallas in January. Double check those dates. And then Dynamics Con Regionals 2026, Tampa in January, Vancouver in March, Denver in April. Again, double check those dates. Excellence updates. Both Jocelyn and David are working on multiple BC implementations. They are actually, my understanding, they're actually doing the work faster than expected in most cases, and they are getting the task done to the point where we are waiting for information from the customer or waiting for the next task. And they're like, I'm done. What's next? So congratulations, Jocelyn and David. From June 2024 to December 2025, they are now full on productive consultants able to take the tasks from configuration packages to EFT formats to financial statements to GL account categorization for chart of accounts, you name it, they are slamming through the work. So awesome job at the ERP Center of Excellence, making great progress. Ronald is still manning our 1099 war room, and we're trying to figure out our battle plan now that we are concerned about V27. He is also helping to test our partner dashboard, and he is getting a process down so that we will manage all of our customers from a single partner dashboard in Business Central, all customer tenants, all customer environments, pushing out upgrades, bulk push of all upgrades to reschedule them to February 26 for 26.5. That is ready to be released with final testing, and that's going to be released in our production tenant internally so that Alyssa, Tanya, and perhaps Ronald can manage that process without touching Partner Center, without going into BC Admin Center of each customer. That has been a dream of mine for a year. Franklin has been developing that partner dashboard. He now knows the ins and outs of the BC Admin API with painful precision. He knows all the quirks of that now. He knows everything about managing tenants to the nth degree. And he is now practicing PTE vibe coding every single day. He's starting with a statement of work. He's going to PRD, and he's going to fully finish PTE with full test data generation, full test A to Z in one day. Franklin. He started November 2024 with us, had never heard of BC, had never done actual software development like on an actual project. He was learning Java. 1 year later, he is now building our internal partner dashboard. Fatima is going through the struggles of trying to do the PMI certification exam. It is quite a headache if you live in El Salvador. So we are on to plan B. Plan A was do the remote computer-based exam. That does not work because some competence issues with the exam company. So she is going to have to take an in-person exam in San Salvador, which is a 2-day process. She has to go there the day in advance, get a hotel room, and then go to the test center and take the exam in the morning. It's quite a thing. So we now have a several $100 budget just to make that happen. So that is in progress. And she will be leading the Dynamics user group. We hope to have a meeting in January. And with that, it has been a busy week. Nonstop vibe coding for me. No holiday, no break. Tons of stuff I've learned. Very, very productive. Proposals, functional requirements, documentation. You've seen it's been very, very good. And Mama ERP is doing well. And I don't know if that's baby E, baby R, or baby P, but that is baby doing well as well. So that's Mama and one of the babies at our Berlin, El Salvador HQ. So, hope you had a good Christmas. Have a good holiday. Have a good New Year. Vibe code all the things. I implore you. I don't know what to say. If you're not vibe coding all the things, I'm going to be vibe coding all the things. And I'm going to be sending out proposals left and right. So, look over your shoulder. I don't know. So, enjoy. Have a good hope you had a good Christmas, Happy New Year, and que tengas un buen el fin de semana. Adios.